The fallout from the Jody Wilson Raibles testimony continues on Parliament Hill. Joining me now from Ottawa is our parliamentary reporter, Ray Filion. Ray, that was quite the explosive testimony from our former Attorney General.
What a bombshell, eh? And what a surprise, too. I was quite surprised because I didn't expect such an explosive testimony from Jody Wilson Raibles, because when you think about it, she got the green light from Justin Trudeau and his government, who lifted the attorney-client privilege, freeing her to tell her side of the story, her truth, as she said. So a lot of people here on Parliament Hill, including myself, thought, okay, if they're okay with her testifying, it's probably because she doesn't have anything damning or embarrassing to say for the government. But it was the exact opposite. Jody Wilson Raibles went there on Wednesday afternoon, and she directly contradicted the Prime Minister's version of events. She gave a contradictory testimony, saying that 11 people engaged in what she called a consistent and sustained campaign of political interference in the SNC-Lavalin case. As you know, the director of public prosecution had decided not to grant the Montreal-based company a special deal in their fraud and corruption case. So the company was going to go to trial. A lot of people here in Ottawa and in Quebec in particular, where the company is based, fear that if that's the case, the company might go under, taking with her, some 9,000 jobs, not just in Quebec, but across the country. So a lot of political pressure was apparently put on Jody Wilson Raibles, who had the power as Attorney General to step in and change the decision by the Director of Public Prosecution. Jody Wilson Raibles said she made the decision not to interfere, but she said for 4 months, there was a lot of pressure, political pressure on her shoulders to change her mind. So, she directly contradicted the Prime Minister here. It looks like Justin Trudeau's government and the Prime Minister are in big, big trouble over this.
But Ray, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has gone on record saying he completely disagrees with her and he's done nothing wrong, he and his government.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's basically his word against hers. The Prime Minister on Wednesday night, just roughly an hour after Jody Wilson Raibles was done testifying on Parliament Hill, he was in Montreal attending some sort of party to celebrate a by-election win. Needless to say that Ms. Wilson Raibles ruined the Prime Minister's party on Wednesday night. The Prime Minister maintains that neither he nor anyone in his office or in the government put undue pressure, inappropriate pressure on the Attorney General to do something she wasn't comfortable doing. It's basically his word against hers. The Prime Minister says he trusts the Ethics Commissioner will get to the bottom of this. The problem is we don't know when that's going to be, and we tried to get information from Mario Dion's office today. They wouldn't say how long his investigation will take. And then on Thursday, many cabinet ministers were dispatched to do interviews to defend the Prime Minister's version of events, that nothing inappropriate happened. And now we learned on Thursday afternoon that Gerald Butts, Mr. Trudeau's former right-hand man who quit 10 days ago, will finally get a chance to tell his side of the story. Following Ms. Wilson Raibles' explosive testimony on Wednesday, he decided to write the Ethics Committee, not the Ethics Committee, the Justice Committee of the House of Commons to request that he be given a chance to tell his side of the story, and the committee immediately accepted. So another interesting testimony coming up perhaps in the coming weeks.
Now, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is calling for a public inquiry, but opposition leader Andrew Scheer went a step further, Ray, saying the Prime Minister should resign.
Yeah, which is something that surprises quite a lot of people, because you don't see that every day. The opposition demanding a minister's resignation, let alone the Prime Minister's resignation. But yeah, Andrew Scheer decided to come out swinging just a few minutes after Jody Wilson Raibles was done testifying on Wednesday. He held a news conference to say, Justin Trudeau, after everything that was said before the Justice Committee, he has lost the moral authority to govern and he's got to go. That's what he said on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, the Conservatives went one step further with Mr. Scheer writing a letter to the RCMP Commissioner, Brenda Lucki, asking her to investigate the matter, to launch a criminal investigation. We don't know yet if the RCMP will actually do it, but he filed a request. Of course, Mr. Trudeau is not going anywhere. He immediately rejected Mr. Scheer's request to step down. And so, yeah, interesting turn of events. And a lot of people think that Mr. Scheer is perhaps exaggerating because Ms. Wilson Raible, while her testimony was damning on Wednesday afternoon, she did say at some point that nothing illegal occurred during the discussions she had with the Prime Minister and everyone else in his office.
Ray, even before the SNC-Lavalin scandal, the polls showed the Liberals were slipping a little bit in popularity. It must be a little bit lower now.
Well, probably, and that's something we're probably going to see in the days and weeks ahead. But yeah, even before Ms. Wilson Raible's explosive testimony on Wednesday, Angus Reid published a poll that was conducted last week, which gives now the Tories a 7-point lead over the Liberals in voting intentions. The Conservatives have 38% support, according to that survey, compared to 31% for the Liberals and 14% for the NDP. 66% of respondents said they believe there is a deeper scandal in the Prime Minister's office. 63% said they think SNC-Lavalin should be fully prosecuted over the bribes that were allegedly paid in Libya between 2001 and 2011 in order to get contracts in that country. And 60% of respondents to this Angus Reid survey said they have an unfavorable view of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And that was, of course, before Jody Wilson Raibles' testimony.
And it appears as though the Liberal caucus is even divided over the SNC-Lavalin affair. Tell me more about that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. While Jody Wilson Raibles was testifying on Wednesday, one of her fellow MPs from Ontario, Selena Caesar Chavana, tweeted her support for her. She wrote, and I quote, "Truth is power. Proud of you." Now, a lot of other MPs are really angry with Ms. Wilson Raibles. They're accusing her of putting the government in serious trouble, of course. There's even one fellow Liberal MP from British Columbia who dismissed her testimony as sour grapes. His name is Jagmeet Sidhu. He said that if Ms. Wilson Raibles was unhappy as Attorney General and Minister of Justice, she should have simply have resigned. He said she's not a team player and that someone, perhaps Ms. Wilson Raibles' father, is pulling her strings. So that those comments caused quite a stir in the House of Commons when they were read by a Conservative MP. Now, the Liberal MP who said that, Mr. Sidhu, wouldn't apologize. And the incredible thing is, after everything she said, Jody Wilson Raibles is still a member of the Liberal caucus. Now, a lot of people want her out. They want to kick her to the curb. And the Prime Minister on Thursday said, we still have to discuss this. They haven't made up their mind. Maybe it's the old adage that says, keep your enemies close, keep your enemies closer. But we're going to find out in the coming days or weeks, once the Liberals have their next caucus meeting, whether or not Jody Wilson Raibles will be allowed to stay on as a Liberal cabinet caucus member.
Yeah, keep your friends closer and your enemies closer, absolutely. Jagmeet Singh finally won his seat when he took the by-election for Burnaby South. Ray, now the hard part begins for the NDP leader.
Well, yeah, because in the coming weeks, he's going to be sworn in. Chances are he's going to make his grand debut in the House of Commons the week of the budget, the day before the budget. I believe it's going to be Monday, the 17th or 18th. I don't have a calendar in front of me. The budget's on the 19th, so I guess he's going to be in the House of Commons for the first time on the 18th. Yeah, a lot of pressure on Mr. Singh's shoulder. He won that by-election and won BC riding. Now he's got to try and win over Canadians. And things, as you and I have discussed many times in the past few months, aren't going well at all for the NDP. They're down in terms of support, in terms of financing. And now that he's going to make his grand debut in the House of Commons, we're going to see what kind of politician he is. We all remember his predecessor, Tom Mulcair. He was a star in the House of Commons, particularly during the Senate scandals. He was seen as the chief prosecutor, going after Stephen Harper on a daily basis. He's going to be a hard act to follow for Mr. Singh, who's going to be up against the other two, of course, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, and Andrew Scheer. So, yeah, tall order for him, big challenge. And we're learning almost every week that a new NDP MP is not going to be running in the next election. Today, Murray Rankin, a well-known MP who's been around for quite a few years, just announced that he's not going to be running in the next election. I believe he's the 11th current NDP MP deciding not to run for re-election.
Word from the Hill is that the Green Party could cause some major headaches for Mr. Singh and the NDP.
Yeah, that's according to the NDP themselves. We saw some interesting by-election results, particularly in Burnaby South, but also in the Outremont riding on the island of Montreal. That used to be a Liberal fortress, which fell to the NDP when Tom Mulcair was elected there back in 2007. And on Monday night, the Liberals took back their former stronghold. They won that riding again. And the Green Party managed to get roughly 12% of the popular vote in that riding, which is kind of unusual. They're not exactly a force to be reckoned with, the Greens in Quebec, but the NDP say that they represent a threat to their political fortunes in Quebec, where they have, as we speak, 16 MPs. You know, it's a major province for the NDP. And one of their MPs this week was saying the environment is more and more important, particularly to young voters in Quebec. And they identify with the Green Party because their name is the Green Party of Canada. So the NDP say we'd better watch out. We'd better, present ourselves as, a good alternative to the Liberal when it comes to the environment.
Ray, a Conservative senator, found himself in some hot water recently after the United We Roll demonstration in Ottawa. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, Conservative Senator David Kashuk was up on the Hill giving a speech to those truckers on Parliament Hill last week. And he said, he invited the crowd, and I'll quote him here, "Roll over every Liberal left in the country, because when they're gone, these bills are gone." That was a pro-pipeline rally. Now, a Liberal MP immediately called on Andrew Scheer to boot Senator Tkachuk out of the Conservative caucus. He accused him of inciting violence. Mr. Tkachuk refused to apologize and said that all that criticism was basically manufactured outrage. He said that his remarks were meant to be taken figuratively, not literally. And that was good enough for Andrew Scheer. So Senator Tkachuk remains in caucus in spite of this controversial remark that he made on Parliament Hill.
The trade war not only continues with the United States and China, but with the U.S. and Canada. Ray, our country is still pressing the Trump administration to lift those tariffs on steel and aluminum. Is Ottawa making any headway?
Well, Canada is putting increasing pressure on the Americans. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, Chrystia Freeland, was taking part in an international conference earlier this week, and she says she met with Donald Trump's vice president, Mike Pence, and she gave him a message, that those tariffs ought to go ASAP. Transport Minister Marc Garneau was also in Washington, D.C. over the past few days, where he also pressed the Trump administration to lift those much-hated tariffs. And earlier this week, what was also interesting, I thought, was to hear from Donald Trump's main economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, who said that he's working to remove those tariffs on Canadian and Mexican steel and aluminum products. So it looks like there's hope here, Hal, that those tariffs might be lifted soon. We'll have to see.
A recent report by the Parliamentary Budget Officer, the PBO, came out on the purchase of the used fighter jets we got from Australia. What did the report reveal? Are they airworthy?
Yeah, well, apparently they are airworthy, but they're going to cost the Treasury a little bit more, apparently, than what the Liberals had said that they would cost, roughly $100,000 more. It's not that much, but it's rekindling the whole debate as to whether or not we need those fighter jets to begin with, because the Liberals have said that without those interim jets, there will be a capability gap. Canada won't be able to keep the CF-18s alive, up and running long enough so that Canada can go on missions abroad, in faraway places, not to mention our domestic obligations here to protect the country. So they decided to buy those used fighter jets for Canada. And the PBO's report is basically rekindling the debate as to whether or not spending that money is really worth it, because the opposition contends there's absolutely no capability gap. The CF-18's life can be extended long enough for Canada until Canada gets brand new fighter jets.
Our parliamentary reporter, Ray Filion, joining me once again from Ottawa. Thanks again, Ray.